Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to preview the top laners at this event. We've went through all the teams. Now we're going to kind of look at each role over the next few days and incorporate some champion stuff in there as well. So there's going to be a second half to this video if you skip around to the end for the player rankings and then comment and disagree when you didn't listen to any of the video. I don't know, just embarrassing. So, interestingly enough, I just want to say, because I threw the ages on here and I thought, well, ages, whatever. I mean, it's experience. We like players that are a little, experienced in an event like this. The youngest top laner here is Ben. Ben's still 21 years old. So, funnily enough, the guy that has an MSI championship on his resume, well, one of two on the board, is the youngest player here. And the one that many are like, well, this year he's kind of taken a step back and this and that. And it's like, yeah, he's 21 years old. It's kind of crazy, right? Because he's, the notion that he may have peaked at like 20 years old would be fucking wild. Because there are some players that don't even sniff tier 1 until 23, 24 years old. And then it's like, oh, wow, they haven't peaked yet. They're still developing. Like, Ben is a player that over time can still develop and accept his role. Like, he needs to, we'll talk about this throughout this video. So, Ben, youngest player here, Keen, Flandre, Rest, Bwipo, all 26 years old. Experience, names that we know. Keep in mind, games played, this includes the entirety of spring, not just the stats I used in the videos, because I wanted to incorporate LCK into this a little better, and the LCK format sucked for a sample size. Now, KDA, the leaders, Flandre and Driver. 5.3 for Driver, 5.2 for Flandre. Driver and Rest splitting time. So keep in mind, Driver's only got a 16-game sample. Lowest, however, Broken Blade and Doran, 2.9. Struggling a bit, if you could even say that. I mean, 2.9 for a top laner is perfectly okay. Kill participation. The range of kill participation, not super crazy, right? We don't have, the meta did not really work out for those throughout spring that may want to play solo dolo in a side lane, 48% KP all season long, and try and win. That just really didn't work out for the teams that wanted to go to MSI, because everybody here, the lowest is like 53%, I believe, for Driver and Broken Blade. Now the most, Gigo and Kiaya. We have to keep in mind, solo kills are a big reason why that's the case. Gigo ended up like leading, actually Driver ends up leading, but Gigo was second in solo kills going into this event from their domestic region. So the fact is, a lot of solo kills out of Gigo. He's very aggressive, and that's going to boost his kill participation. But he's involved in almost 2 out of every 3 kills for Faria. So if Faria are going to get a kill, Gigo's usually involved. Kiaya as well for Gam, 62%, 3 out of every 5. That's not a big surprise. We've seen Kiaya over the years play as that carry threat in the top lane. In terms of farm, Rest and Kiaya, 8.6 and 8.5. Pretty good, right? They're getting a lot of resources. Rest at a 58 KP, maybe he's a little less involved. Slightly less, but nevertheless, just kind of doing his thing. Mirwin and BB, though, 7.9. So it kind of goes to show you maybe LEC. Top lane not getting as many resources. That's a meta thing, a regional thing. But 7.9 is, 8's usually the bar for top lane, so it makes sense and is okay to be, a little lower than that. Damage divided by gold, ROI. So who's the most aggressive in terms of damage, utilizing their gold to pack a punch? Many people around 1.6. So the range really, for the most part, is between 1.6 and 1.4. But the outlier is Gigo at 1.84 for Faria. He dealt a shit ton of damage. And he had some crazy champion selections. The second half of this video, we touch on the champions that pretty much everybody either played or didn't. But the unique champions, really, Gigo was one of those guys. He played like 4 champions that no one else even played. I think Mirwin may have played 3. Bwipo may have played 3. Like things that nobody else were touching. Broken Blade did as well. And those unique picks are important, in my opinion, when we look at a tournament like this, because It's fearless now. So you have to make it so that the enemy coaching staff has to consider, well, he may pick this random ass shit. He's done it before, he could do it again. And that sort of stuff is going to waste time and preparation for the enemy opponent, the enemy team, and the enemy top laner. They've got to come up with something. They may say, you know what, I haven't played against any top. Now you could have an idea of what you want to do. Maybe it's not even meta anymore, but the point is they've got to it's got to cross their mind, right? Lower end of things, Rest 1.4. He led in farm, didn't deal a ton of damage, right? So his champion pool, or at least he wasn't aggressive. He wasn't using that farm for damage. Broken Blade 1.48, which is fine. He's taking on more of a weak side role, less farm, and therefore less ROI. Maybe he's playing more tanky, and historically the top lane can do that, of course. So that is a thing, and it's kind of like to look, okay, who's playing carry, who's playing weak side when we look at ROI. Share differential. Lower end, Flandre and Bin, 0.7 and 1.3. So the top lane role, not utilizing their gold share for a lot of damage share for the team. Their team is finding damage elsewhere, and those guys are taking on more of a facilitator role in that respect. Higher end, Kiaya and Gigo, 5 and 5.8%. They are guys that are arguably carrying their team in the damage department. They're second tier carries. For Gam and Kiaya, that's no shock. There's no shock at all. The mid lane's not really as damage heavy on that team. Whether it's Ares or Emo, it's kind of irrelevant. Neither one is dealing a ton of damage. And then in the case of Gigo, I mean, Ayu's kind of a weak side player, and we'll talk about that when we get to 80 carries. If you didn't watch the Faria video, it's a unique team in the way that their kill participations worked out in playoffs. Vision efficiency. Who's the most efficient with vision? Which means if you place a ward, how much vision score are we getting per ward? Keep in mind, champions played effectsless. But Flandre, 3.3. So he's utilizing his advantages to get proper vision, objective control. That's important. Gigo, 3. Also finding a way to get some vision. Lower end of things, Driver at 2. And Rest and Kiaya, 2.2. So their ward placement not as strong. Maybe they're using their wards for something else. Gold difference. This is an important stat. Who is gapping their opponent? Bin, up 384 gold on average. We have to factor in their schedule. The LPL schedule was a little tougher than the other regions, especially when you take into account that he had to play, they split up the region into 10 and 6, and he had to play those top teams consistently for most of the regular season and then go into playoffs. And Bin showed he's still a very dominant laner. I mean, 384 gold lead is huge. So when he goes against G2 Gam Faria, which is, in my opinion, no shock here, but a lower level of play, these guys are coming from a lower region than the LPL, they're going to have their hands full with Bin. I mean, and that's not a profound thing to say. Driver up 303 gold, really, and 303 gold's interesting because Rest is only a positive 1, right? So Rest is essentially going even, but Driver up 300 gold on average against his LCP opponents, which could include Kiaya in that set, right? Because they played in finals. So that is a thing. Lower end as well, Flandre negative 46. So Flandre actually losing lane on average. But like I said, they played a tough set of games, a tough schedule. In terms of Keen and Doran, they're ahead. That's good for them because against LCP, LEC, LTA, they don't have to play as tough of top laners. XP difference because people, the lane swaps, things that in the third. And I like going to 15 minutes because it's closer to when the first turret falls. In my opinion, laning phase ends when the first turret falls, not at necessarily an arbitrary number, but more often than not, it's closer to the 14-15 mark than it is less than that. XP difference, CFO. So Driver and Rest leading this at 279 and 168. What does that mean? CFO's top laners stay in lane quite a bit. They're going to find XP in some way, shape, or form. Mirwin 76, Gigo 28. So not as crazy in that department. Solo kills per game. Driver, 0.56. A lot of solo kills out of Driver. Gigo, 0.47. That's like 15 and 32 games. That's a lot. So every other game he's getting a solo kill. He's finding outplays. Hell, in the playoffs he had 10 and 7. A very strong week, or I guess just a very strong playoffs for Gigo. Driver and Rest truly go back and forth in terms of games. Driver usually starts the first game and Rest then plays game 2 and they go back and forth. It makes it hard for the enemy because they have to prepare for 2 different top laners and their champion pools are slightly different. Lower end, Keen. Only about 1 every 8 games, solo kill wise. Keen was not overly aggressive this past split. I think he only had like 8 solo kills or something in 46 games. I think that might be actually the number. It's not a ton, right? When you have guys everywhere else finding solo kills. And that doesn't mean that Keen isn't a great player, because Keen's obviously very, very good. Mirwin also 1 in every 4 games, so 10 and 40 for him. Not finding extreme outplays either. Champions played, and we'll expand on this a bit. Rest had a ton of champions played per game because they only played 13 games, so just take that for what we will. Broken Blade, though, 0.53 for 34 games. Played like 18 champions in 34 games. That is a lot of different shit. That's a lot of stuff you got to think about when you're against G2. And that is why, historically, I've always been a proponent of G2 at international events, saying, this is the team that you got to watch out for because they are willing to do things that the enemy's team might not be ready for. You have to be unpredictable to have a chance. Broken Blade, 0.53. That's a wide champion pool. Bwippo, 0.52. I say the same thing about FlyQuest all the time. Lower end, though, Flandre and Bin, 0.3. For Flandre, that's not much lower than Doran and Keen because he's played much more games. I think Flandre played like 19 champions in 64 games. This is not a shot at his champion pool. It's just the reality of the way the stats look. And we expand on it a bit like I just did. But Bin, his champion pool is still that limited champion pool that we talk about year after year, but Bin is obviously so good that he overcomes that champion pool. You can know what he's going to play, and he's still going to probably beat your ass. So, 0.15. He only played like 11 champions in 78 games. Well, the thing is, though, like it's like kind of like a pitcher in baseball. I made a baseball reference in the comments, and some people didn't get it, which, touch grass, I guess. But it's like, the pitcher is about to throw a fastball, but because the fastball is 102 miles an hour, you're not going to get the bat on it. And that's kind of how I look at, playing against Bin. Bin is a player that you probably know what he's about to do, what he's about to pick, but good luck beating it. Good luck, neutralizing it. That's kind of the way I look at Bin. Now, this year he's been a little bit, whatever, but they've also had a lot of changes going on at BLG, different coaches, different junglers. I think people are really just exaggerating BLG's struggles. But that's the first half of this video. Now on to the second half. Okay, so some champion talk. You might just skip to the rankings and lose your shit, but on the left side is the Discord. We had people, ranking their top laners. That's how it turned out. It's in that random order because, I like to make it kind of tough on people that like to skip around content. And then my rankings there are based on the stats. But keep in mind, I kept the LPL and LCK top 4 guaranteed. But we're going to talk more about that because that's based on stats and not necessarily how I may feel. Now, champions and the players that played them in these numbers long time. The numbers indicate percentage. That's the percentage of games played on that champion by that player. These are their 3 most played. So when we look at Rumble, Bin played Rumble 20% of the time in spring. Like I just said about Bin, though. You can know he's about to pick the Rumble, but can you beat the Rumble? Driver, 19%, Mirwin, 15%, Doran, Keen, Gigo, Kiaya, all playing a lot of Rumble. Is that a big surprise? No. But what's interesting, Broken Blade, not a single Rumble game in spring. That's weird, right? Not a single one. Gwen, Doran plays Gwen 20% of the time, 1 out of every 5 games. Keen playing a lot of Gwen. Flandre, Mirwin, Kiaya, all playing Gwen. But yet, Driver and Bwippo, no Gwen games played. This does not mean that those players can't play them, but they didn't play them. So, if we had to choose who's not going to probably play Gwen, it'd probably be those guys. Ambessa. So, Mirwin, Bin, and Doran played a lot of Ambessa. Mirwin at 18%, which is a lot more than the other two. But then yet, Driver, Rest, and Bwippo didn't play Ambessa at all. So, CFO, no Ambessa games, at least in top lane. I mean, Hongq, I guess, theoretically could have played it in spring. Nidalee was buffed on patch 13. I'm including the patch 13 stuff in this content because it's not a massive patch. I can do it this way. So Nidalee technically was buffed for 13 as of right now, which is MSI patch. The two players that played a lot of Nidalee were Rest and Bwippo. Rest played at 15% of his games, Bwippo 10%. Now, many other people played Nidalee. That's not to say they didn't, but they just didn't play it as much as these two did. The players that didn't play Nidalee, though, Bin, Broken Blade, Gigo, and Driver. So are they going to play Nidalee now? We'll see. But going into it, so far, they didn't play it in spring. Sion, Driver, 19% of his games are on Sion. Taking Rumble, that's 38% of his games between those two champions. Flandre, 16%. Kiaya, Bwippo, and Broken Blade all playing Sion, but Rest didn't touch it. Yorick, nerfed on 13. Well, which two players played a lot of Yorick? The LPL duo. Bin, 17%. Flandre, 13%. So half of Bin's games were played on Rumble, Ambessa, and Yorick. And Yorick's nerfed. Now, whether the nerfs are effective, I don't really give a shit. The point is that it's been nerfed. Placebo always can happen. Flandre, 13% for him. The players that didn't play Yorick, though, so they're not as affected. Yeah, Yorick is nerfed. I wasn't playing it anyways. Our team wasn't really working with it. G2, Broken Blade, Mirwin for Koi, and Keen for Gen G. Not playing Yorick. Jax, Driver, and Broken Blade playing a lot of Jax. Guys that didn't play Jax at all, Keen, Rest, Bwippo. Gnar, Broken Blade, one of his most played. 12% of his games were on Gnar. A lot of people played Gnar, but Gigo, Driver, Bwippo didn't play him at all. And I keep mentioning Driver and Bwippo. Driver didn't play many games, but Bwippo played the entire season. Not playing a lot of these champions. A lot of unique things on Bwippo's champion pool. Jace, Rest, 23% of his 13 games were played on Jace. I mean, 4 out of 13? I mean, a real profound thing there. Yes, 3 out of 14. 3 out of 13, Jesus Christ. Keen, 15%. But Broken Blade and Bwippo didn't play Jace at all. Renekton, this is one of Bwippo's most played. He played it more than anyone else at 17% of his games. Bin, 13%. Kiaya, 11%. Everybody played Renekton, but those three played it the most. Gragas, played by Driver in 19% of his games. Bwippo, 10% of his games. Other notables, Aatrox, one of Gigo's most played. He played at 13% of games. K'Sante, not picked by Bin, Driver, or Bwippo. Oddly enough, right? K'Sante, a comfort pick for a lot of people. No, it wasn't as strong this year as in years past, but usually a pick that kind of people, it reminds me of like a Nautilus support in the way that, we're going to pick K'Sante and just see what happens. Bin, Driver, Blippo all didn't play Kesante. And then Orn. Rest, Kiaya, Gigo didn't play Orn. It's not a big surprise, though. We looked at the farm. We saw the stats. I mean, those stats weren't reminiscent of somebody that played Orn. But then the last two champions to talk about here, Gangplank and Aurelia, both have been buffed for patch 13. Is it going to be effective? We'll see. But Aurelia, Doran, Bin, and Broken Blade are the only three players in the top lane to pick Aurelia in Tier 1 the last 3 seasons. 2013, 2014, and so far in 2015, so 2.5. Doran's the only one to play it more than once. He played it twice. Now, with Gangplank, it actually gets really interesting. So Gangplank has been buffed. Only 4 players have played Gangplank in the last 2.5 years. Driver, Keen, Bwippo, and Doran. And if I did it based on how I determine a team that's buffed or nerfed, technically CFO would be buffed by this patch because Driver actually plays Gangplank quite a bit. He played at 6% of his games the last 2.5 years, and my threshold's 4%, 1 out of every 25 games. I mean, usually it works. But he's played it like 9 times in 160 games. Now, that's not to say like Keen probably, I think, played it a dozen times, but he's played a lot more games, so there's a lot more opportunities to play it. Maybe it's not as crucial of a pick to his champion pool as it is for Driver. But obviously we know players can play Gangplank. They've played it maybe 5 years ago. The reason why I mention these guys is because even when it wasn't strong or wasn't meta, these players are the ones that were playing it. So if Gangplank is going to be played at this event, I would think that these guys are the ones that are more likely to play it than anyone else, at least off the rip. So that is a thing. Now, in terms of player ranking, so I'm okay with the way the LCK LPL top 4 ended turning out. Keen, doing well in lane. I think I got to put him above Flandre. Flandre being behind at 15 minutes is going to be the make or break for me, and I'm going to put Keen above him because of that. I think that's a big deal. You can't be behind at 15 minutes. Now, obviously, it's a low, a high level of play. I still think Flandre is the second best top laner going into this event because he's obviously played very strong, very consistently. But I like Keen. I think he also does that, but does it better. Then you have Bin and Doran because I think Bin just offers more oomph than Doran does. And historically, that's been the case. I like Bin going into this matchup. I don't care, I don't care. I think Bin's better than Doran. So that's the thing. Now, and the stats back that up. So that's a thing. Now, in terms of the lower 3 regions, the stats had Gigo 5th. There's no way in hell Gigo's 5th. I'm sorry, CBLOL fans. I'm sorry, Faria fans. But the stats are that good. So the fact of the matter is this. We got to kind of work through where those stats would place him. Because if he's playing that dominantly at, the LTA South level, we have to consider how that may match up. So, first things first, we're going to kind of change some things here. We got Kiaya is going to be 5th because I'm a big Kiaya guy. I think he's the best top laner outside of the 2 LCK and LPL. I think he's very, very, very good. And, well, the stats back that up. He's a carry-oriented top laner that can do pretty much anything you want. Now, after that, I like Bwippo. I think Bwippo's champion pool allows him an opportunity to be competitive with the best players at this tournament in his role. I think he can go toe-to-toe with Keen, Bin, Flandre, and Doran if he flips heads. He may flip tails. If he flips tails, he's going to lose. But he's 6 out of 11, which makes him middle of the road. It works out. That's the way I look at that. Then we have, I like BB. I think BB's still very good in 7th. His champion pool speaks for itself. I think he's done a great job. Even if he is he's got a rookie jungler he's got to work with, and they're doing fine just the way they are, in my opinion. After that, I think Driver is 8th. So the reason why I end up putting Driver and Rest below BB and Bwipo would be, I feel like with the 6-man roster, that does cover up some weaknesses for both of those players. So that is a thing. After that, I'd probably put I'm gonna put Gigo 9th. I like the stats. I do. The stats show that he is probably better than the last couple top laners we've seen at these events from LTA South. Whether that's Weiser or Robo or even Zolfbay. We think of Astral, right? I think, yeah, Zolfbay played with Astral. Rainbow Seven's top laner was Summit. And of course, Summit, the way he played this year, I mean, I don't know what to think of Summit. I think he's just kind of taking a paycheck. But regardless, Gigo 9th. We're going to go Rest 10, Mirwin 11th. So, Mirwin to me, like, this champion pool is crazy good. Carry-oriented top, but this split was not Mirwin-esque. Like, those numbers did... Like, he's trying to... He's developing. Last year, his rookie year, he was on more comfort things. He was on carry-oriented champions. Frescowy in mid lane. Frescowy is going to play those facilitator weak side play. Hell, he's playing Renekton mid and shit. So, it made sense. But now with JoJo in mid, Mirwin has to play a different role, a different style, and become a more complete player, and that's going to take time. So going into this event, I have 11th because he's still figuring out how to become a more complete player, in my opinion. He still has those crazy picks in top lane, but he's also incorporating more traditional picks. So that is a thing. But that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.